Hello, good evening and welcome to the Q News Economic Bulletin. I'm Mark Summers. We start off with Europe, where the Federal Statistical Office, Statis, has confirmed that German inflation rose in August to a 5-month high. The Consumer Price Index increased 2.2% year-on-year, up from 2% in the previous 2 months. This increase was driven by an acceleration in food prices and a slowing decline in energy costs. Food inflation quickened to 2.5% from 2.2%, while energy prices decreased by a smaller margin than in July. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy, remained stable at 2.7% for the 3rd consecutive month. The harmonized index of consumer prices used for comparison across the EU also rose to 2.1% in August, up from 1.8% in July. On a monthly basis, both the CPI and HICP edged up by 0.1% in August. Meanwhile, France's statistics agency INSEE has raised its 2025 gross domestic product growth forecast to 0.8%, up from 0.6%, citing rebounds in aeronautics, tourism, real estate and agriculture. The improved outlook remains fragile, however, as growth is driven by temporary inventory rebuilding rather than consumer spending. Households are saving despite low inflation due to unemployment concerns. Political uncertainty following the government's collapse could also dampen growth if prolonged. The forecast remains slightly above the government's own 0.7% projection. Also, the National Statistics Office, INSEE, has stated that France's harmonized annual inflation rate edged down to 0.8% in August from 0.9% in July. The figure was in line with both a preliminary reading and analyst forecasts. The decline was primarily driven by a slowdown in services price inflation, which fell to 2.1% year-on-year from 2.5% in July. Prices for manufactured goods also weakened further, declining by 0.3%. The data supports recent comments from Bank of France Governor François Villeroy de Gourhau, a member of the European Central Bank's Governing Council, who stated that inflation is under control. A Bank of England survey has reported that the British public's expectation for inflation in about 5 years' time rose in August to its highest level since May 2019. The measure of longer-term expectations increased to 3.8% from 3.6% in May, which may unsettle some policymakers ahead of next week's interest rate decision. The survey also found that expectations for inflation over the next 12 months rose to a 2-year high of 3.6%, up from 3.2% 3 months earlier. While not a direct forecast, economists view rising public inflation expectations as a risk factor for higher inflation, as they lead to increased wage demands and price hikes. Meanwhile, Britain has launched a new package of sanctions against Russia, targeting the country's oil exports and military supply chains in response to recent escalations in the conflict with Ukraine. The UK government said the move was a response to recent Russian aggression, including increased attacks on Ukraine and a violation of NATO airspace. New Foreign Minister Yvette Cooper stated the sanctions are vital to cut off cash flows for the illegal war. The package includes measures against 70 ships and 30 firms, including companies based in China and Turkey. China's embassy in London has objected to the sanctions, calling them unilateral actions without any basis in international law.